Matt Stadlen on LBC.
Well, I'm going to be speaking to Nick Gold. Nick's director of Speakers Corner, and he basically farms out speakers to pretty much whoever wants to have a speaker. And I spoke to him just before coming on air. I wanted to get a sense from him exactly how body language matters, how the way in which politicians come across can impact on the way that we might vote, because we learned over the past few hours, didn't we, that Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn will be going head to head in a TV debate on the 19th of November. It's something that Theresa May turned down when she called that snap election in 2017. I'm sure lots of us will be tuning in. I'm sure it will be carried live on LBC as well. Anyway, I started by asking Nick to tell me in very simple terms how important body language is in politics.
So whenever anyone is speaking publicly, the content is critical, but actually how you present that content and how you present yourself is the entire game, because people have to intrinsically believe what you're saying, and they believe it by how you present yourself and whether you have, as much as anything, courage in your convictions. So the message you're delivering from your mouth, it reflects actually how you are positioning yourself and your body, and you're presenting yourself out to the public.
There's no substitute, of course, for knowing your brief, but you also have to believe in what you're saying, don't you? Because if you don't believe it, and this is the same, I imagine, for stand-up comedians, no one else is going to believe it.
Absolutely right. I think there's in the world in general, there's this great fear about public speaking. But the truth of the matter is, if you're telling a story about yourself, or you're talking about something you passionately believe in, this whole concept about public speaking and the fear of it goes out the window, because you're talking about something that you're comfortable with. And so for a politician speaking on the public stage, they are going to be found out if they're trying to deliver a message which intrinsically they do not believe in.
Can you teach confidence? Can you teach oratorial ability?
You can definitely teach oratorial ability. I think those people who it comes naturally to are rare and far between. But at the same time, if the person doesn't understand what they're talking about, doesn't believe in what they're talking about, doesn't really get what they're talking about, then however great you are at delivering that line, the listener and the person who's watching you will be able to read straight through you.
Practice as well is vital.
Of course, ultimately, it's a skill, and a skill requires practice. We've read or we know about the theory that actually you have 10,000 hours of practice and it makes you an expert. It's the same with public speaking. It's the same with speaking. It's the same with delivering something. You've got to keep on practicing it. You've got to keep on doing it. You should know it off by heart. It should just come naturally to you. And that doesn't come because you just managed to wing it. It comes because you practiced it in the background.
And the best sort of practice, of course, is actually doing it. The experience of giving speech after speech, performance after performance.
Yes, and also having the ability to take feedback from people watching you and do it in a live environment rather than thinking you know yourself. I remember there's a whole thing about you speak to camera and then you can watch yourself back, but nothing beats actually having an audience in front of you and then giving you the honest feedback so that you can take that on board and then improve yourself.
And afterwards as well, not being surrounded by yes men and women, but by people who are prepared to say, this is how you can improve.
Yes. I mean, we can every step of the way, you should be aiming to get better. No one is the perfect speaker. However good the speech is, you can always deliver it in a better way. You can emphasise certain points in order to get them across better. And what you need people who you trust to be able to tell you the parts that you can improve on, and you are willing to listen. Because it's very easy, on the euphoria of the moment when you're up on stage delivering a speech, to believe in yourself in that height, because it is a great feeling, especially if you've got an audience who's receptive to you, to believe that you did it well. For someone who's standing there who you can look at it, turns around and say, that was great, but you can do this better, do this and that better. If you can take that on board, you're going to go far in the speaking world.
Likeability, that's something that you can't manufacture, isn't it?
So likeability is really interesting because it's the emotional element of someone connecting through to you. You can't manufacture it, but you can't expect everyone to like you. So what you can expect is that if you're true to yourself, that people are going to respect you. So even if they don't like you or they don't believe or agree with what you're saying, if they understand that actually you passionately believe about it and you're talking about something that is true to you, they're not going to not like you. They start not liking you when they feel you're delivering something in a way which actually maybe is aggressive or is not
needy.
True to yourself.
Or needy. You have to be yourself. I just want to ask you instinctively, because I have no idea what your politics are, who do you think will come out on top, Corbyn or Johnson? I'm not talking about their politics either. I'm not talking really about the substance of what they're saying, although that will be a key. I'm talking about their body language, their confidence, their likability.
So I think it's fascinating because they really are chalk and cheese as debaters and as public speaking figures. And I think Julia Etchingham, who's the moderator in the whole thing, I think she's going to be critical to the whole thing. If Boris Johnson is allowed to be the raconteur he is and tell stories and is given the license to go off in a myriad of directions, he is a very natural public speaker. And he has what you described previously as a likability effect, which can charm people. So if he's given the license, he can get away with it. Jeremy Corbyn is a much more, in my opinion, kind of as a speaker, he's a much more passionate guy. He's not as eloquent and not as natural on stage. But if he can stick to his points and not be riled or not react to Boris Johnson, then he can deliver a message which actually can deliver passion in a completely different way to how Boris Johnson delivers it. So I find it absolutely fascinating because it's going to be about in the build-up, in the campaign, which is obviously just kicked off, how much the characters of the individual leaders are promoted in leading up to the debate, and then how much they deliver on the day, which is going to and does everything marry up.
Corbyn, of course, will almost certainly play on his reputation for authenticity. Whether people like him or not, he will claim to be what he really has stood for decades in the political arena. I think back to some of the big political performances of recent years. I think of Theresa May's coughing fit. I think more positively of Nick Clegg back in the 2010 election when everyone kept saying, I agree with Nick. And then I think even further back to the 5 o'clock shadow of Nixon when he went up against JFK and it didn't work out for him. How important are these big set pieces today?
So they're still important. They're still absolutely critical to the whole game. But I would turn around and say, whereas in days gone past, they were the showpiece and the part where actually the public, the only almost time that the public could see and touch and feel these leaders. Actually now it's part of the whole, and they're more likely in the debates today to lose rather than to actually win, if that makes sense. So I don't think anyone's going to necessarily win out the whole thing, but I think either Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn could make mistakes and end up losing and go down in estimations off the back of it, the whole thing. So absolutely they're still critical, but I think from a different perspective to how they used to be.
Nick Gold, very good to have you on the show.
Lovely meeting. Thanks very much indeed.